look like we're back to the situation that we were before.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
First and foremost, family is first, and I think she's doing the right thing.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
But what we are doing is we are getting the thing fixed, because the New York Times also wrote 12 years ago that the Obama administration spent more money. It was reflecting pool was closed for 2 years. It never worked. That thing, even right now, when we took this project over, was leaking 45,000 gallons of water a day.
That's Doug Burgum talking about the latest updates in D.C. Now, the Democrats say that they care about conservation and climate change and water, yet they're just leaking 45 gallons a day out of the pool. We're getting it fixed. I am joined by Camelia Peterson of Americans for Prosperity. Good morning.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
All right. We've got John Marsh and Drake Whitman with us as well. Randy will be back tomorrow. Now, Democrats are big mad about us making D.C. beautiful again. And by us, I mean Trump and the Republicans. But we're about to celebrate a big birthday, and there's just something to be said about preserving your national treasures, about making your capital city look beautiful again.
Yes, I was talking with a friend about this the other day, because it's always the push and pull of what's the proper role of government? But I think there's a really big argument to be made for beauty even in government, right? And in our national monuments. And so I think it's a great thing. And 45,000 gallons a day, that's crazy.
It's waste, fraud, and abuse in a different sense,
Right.
I think. And it's been, but the fact that we have so much going on, and this is what's really making Democrats mad, and they're pressuring their Hollywood elite to not participate in America's birthday. And I don't think it wasn't us that was making it political. I didn't see it as a political event. But they are saying, I think the fans of these folks who are going to show up to do these concerts are saying, if you participate, then you're, MAGA or something. And now they're slowly falling away. Not like we had the biggest stars on the card anyway, Camelia.
Well, we have the WWE and the MMA. They're probably not going to get up there and sing or anything, but, they're great.
It brings me back to this argument, and this was, somebody posted this. This is a little bit old. I think Billie Eilish got in trouble for a political statement she made, and Kevin O'Leary had this to say.
It's the first lesson 101 for celebrity. As you rise up, whether you're a film star, music star, whatever, shut your mouth and just entertain.
I don't know that.
Shut up and sing.
And I think I've been criticized in the past as well, because I'll be like, I'll listen to Taylor Swift. Now, she's a big lefty and she's said some pretty crazy things. I think I can separate the two generally, as long as you're not, out there calling for violence and you're, saying completely irrational things. I can understand political differences and still appreciate the music. I think a lot of conservatives are there, but I don't think the left has the capacity to do the same thing.
Yeah, there's no reciprocity there. And that's a shame, because we should be able to come together for, to celebrate the country.
Well, you know what, Steph, your hip-hop buddy has had positive things to say over the years about the president. Nicki Minaj and, heck, 50 Cent likes him,
right.
and even nutty, some of the other ones out there who are a little more to left field, Kanye, like that. But hey,
I don't know
there's
that we
people out
want
there
to
who
count
might play.
Kanye on our team.
Wait, can we really count Kanye since he ran by himself back in 2016? Is he really part of the Republican Party?
I don't think so.
I claim Kanye. I'll take that stand.
Okay, you can, but and I think there's a lot of other folks out there that I think we can call on. I'm surprised not to see some of the bigger country music names.
Yeah, that's right.
Participating. And then, where's Kid Rock in this whole thing? Because he's sitting in the Oval Office, right, dressed up like a fool next to Trump. So, it's always tough, because it seems to be that most of the Hollywood folks are on the left, but this really, I think, and so what Trump's now come out and said, we don't even need any of these musical acts. I'm going to speak. And people are like, this is a disaster.
I think that whenever a couple of years ago when they were talking about America's 250th and all of the big plans for it, I think it was really inspirational for a lot of people. And there was really a great feeling of hope and, optimism. And I feel like that, with all of this chaos, like we need to do something to bring that back. We need something big.
I think that's right. But I think also for anyone who's planned one of these events, whether we're talking your county fair, your state fair, or this, America's fair type thing, it's tough to get these people booked. They have busy schedules. They're expensive. Some of them have very specific requirements. And so it's always tough booking these big acts no matter what. So whether, there's other stuff going on behind the scenes, it's hard to tell. But I think that I think the real treasure, and I'm hoping this goes as well as I've heard how it's going to go, is this, they're going to have kind of booths from every state to kind of showcase every state. And I haven't quite heard what Missouri's planning yet. But I think that's that part, when I think about going to DC to celebrate, it wouldn't be to go see what Milli Vanilli or whatever else was. It would be to go see the highlight.
Milli Vanilli.
I think
They might lip sync it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so. I think that wouldn't be why I would go to the fair, right?
Yes.
I would go for the funnel cakes, number one.
That's right.
And two, to see kind of the showcase, the history, the monuments, and I mean, you're in the state capitol a lot. And we spent quite a bit of money, and that not without some consternation of how much money we're spending on Capitol renovations. But for example, those fountains were under construction, I think a lot of this year. And I just walked by last week and I'm like, wow, it looks so good. And I know we were trying to get it done before the bicentennial, is that right? We did a bunch of renovation. It's not too long ago. And even I took my sister down on Adrian's Island, and she's like, what are these chunks of thing? And I said, oh, let's go look at the plaque. These are like pieces of the Capitol. And she's like, wow, that's really cool. And so there's just something to be said for preserving what you've already got, spending the money in the right way. And I think that's been the argument with our own state capital funding is like, look, if we don't get out in front of these projects and maintain them, it's going to be much more expensive in the end. When things really start falling apart and we have to fix them then.
And culturally, we're really seeing a return to, that emphasis on beauty and goodness. And, like we did the whole brutalist architecture for a while, which is terrible. It's ugly. We don't want to do that. So coming back to that, I think is a great thing.
I think so, too. Well, you are hearing Camelia Peterson of Americans for Prosperity. Many of you who are in and around the state capitol or on the ground in these important races have met and seen her, or you're doing a lot of events as well. So tell us a little bit about Americans for Prosperity for those who might be less familiar.
Sure. So we're all grassroots until we're not, right? We're all outsiders until we're insiders. But several years ago when I got the bug and was looking for a way to get involved, I found AFP and really aligned with my values and approach to things. And so AFP basically just pursues good policy, and that is, free market, free speech, good conservative policies. And by virtue of that, we also work to elect people who will get those good policies done in the Capitol. So we do lots and lots of different things. We're a small team, and we wear a lot of different hats.
I was thinking about that this morning. We always talk about how Missouri punches above its weight in D.C. as far as all of the people we've got there doing good things. But I'm thinking AFP, more than I think any organization in Missouri, really punches above its weight for as many, as few people as you actually have on staff. Now, you've had some big successes in the past. I remember you guys talking about how many doors you knocked for now Senator Schmidt.
Almost 500,000.
Almost 500,000. And that was a really important race. And I think a lot of people can say Senator Schmidt's doing in D.C. what we thought he was going to do. People are excited that he's there. And I think his future is very bright. Now, we've got some pretty competitive Senate races. You're also very involved in some of the ballot measure campaigns. So talk about what the next few months with AFP looks like, what you're doing now.
Well, we're going to sleep after August 4th, maybe.
Okay, maybe. I doubt it.
But no, there's more to be done after that, but there's a lot to be done before then for sure. So with both Amendment 4 and Amendment 5, which is the initiative petition reform and the income tax phase out ballot measures being in August, we are engaging on both of those at doors and also with events. We're doing town halls across the state on the income tax phase out because it's a big thing, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So doing a lot on that as well. And then we also have a lot of primaries that we are working on right now, several Senate races and then multiple House races as well. So it's run.
It is. And so you don't donate directly to these ballot measure campaigns or the candidates, but you are doing, I know, days, I think, what is it?
We do days of action. We like to say Saturdays are for the doors, but the truth is like every day is door day. But no, we don't do direct donations to campaigns. When we get involved, that means that we are either knocking doors and or we're also doing mail or digital ads or those things. But our what we really do mostly is door knocking because that's what makes the difference.
And I think that's so, and we'll get into that because I think we've got the Spencer Pratt election coming up, and I think there's this folks are saying I've seen the viral videos, and I think there's still a question in my mind. Can viral videos on social media show up in the voting booth, or is it face-to-face conversations with your friends and neighbors? And I think we talk here so much on the program about, just making sure people are educated. And so that's what I think I can appreciate about AFP's mission is you're really dedicated to engaging one-on-one or in small groups with folks and making sure they have the right information as they head in to the polling place. It will be, so we've got a lot we're doing in August, and we're going to focus a little bit on that today. We're going to get into AFP is supporting through this door knocking some of our Senate, some of the Senate candidates, and we want to get into what factors matter in AFP choosing to get behind a candidate. But we'll have to do that a little bit later. We're going to be talking to Bishop Davidson out of Greene County, Representative Davidson at 8:10. Not only about the state budget, but also about the income tax phase out and elimination. That'll be good. So stick with us for 8:10. And then at 7:10, we're going to be talking to Director Kurt Schaefer of the Department of Natural Resources because we're also going to be voting on that Parks and Soils tax. What is that? Where does it go? There's a lot of educating to be done, and we're going to try to help you out this morning so you can make sure you are informed as we head into that August primary. But up next, we have John Marsh with the Daily DC Rundown.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
What if you could have all the money you want?
What would you do with that money?
Have you ever heard this saying?
A penny saved is a penny earned.
What does that even mean? And who still uses pennies?
Wow. Money can be scary and confusing, so here are 6 steps on how to earn and save money like a boss.
Number 1, find the things you're good at. I mean better than good. Good enough that people will want to pay you to do it. Maybe it's woodworking or juggling things that should never be juggled. Regardless, if you get good enough, eventually people will pay you for it. But that takes time. So while you work on your nunchuck skills, let's move to step 2.
Get a job. Don't sit around waiting for an Instagram model recruiter or a movie producer to come find you in your bedroom.
Hey kid, you want to star in my movie? Are you for real, bro? No.
Unless you're in a movie with an unrealistic storyline, your first job is probably not going to be something you really love. You might get your start by
like for you?
Well, first of all, there's no deal that's good enough because the media will cover it. We're making a great deal. We're going to make it a great deal. Or we'll just go back and finish it off militarily.
There you go, Drake. Finish it off militarily. Drake's been arguing for that for weeks now. That gets us into our daily D.C. rundown with John Marsh.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Central Command announcing it carried out self-defense strikes against Iran over the weekend. Strikes on Iranian radar and command and control sites for drones. They say the measured and deliberate strikes occurred on Saturday and Sunday in response to aggressive Iranian actions, included the shoot down of a U.S. MQ drone that was operating in international waters. Kuwait noted its air defenses had to open fire to intercept drone and missile attacks. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and her challengers spent the final weekend before Election Day crisscrossing the city as a surprisingly competitive mayoral race heads towards a likely runoff. Spencer Pratt said to be surging. Bass is seeking a second term up against former reality star and city council member Nathia Rahman in Tuesday's primary. And former Joe Biden spokesman accused the former First Lady of trying to change the tape after she revealed in a recent interview she feared that Joe Biden was having a stroke during his 2024 debate performance. Joe facing criticism for an apparent reversal of her feelings about her husband's performance in the debate that we all witnessed at Lakeside Ashland. All three of us were there against Donald Trump. So she's promoting her new book.
Now, are you going to buy the new book, Camellia?
I honestly didn't know she had a new book.
You've been very busy and have been on the road. Now, our mutual friend Jennifer Bukowski always convinces me to buy the books of the enemies and the other folks. She's like, there's so many good nuggets in there that like you really should read it. So
I mean, I think that there's a lot of value in knowing what your enemy thinks, right?
I think so, but she really is trying to change the narrative. And they said, like, even after the debate, maybe I heard this and I haven't fact checked this, but like maybe they went directly to a Waffle House. They're like, if you honestly thought your husband was having a stroke, like, you go to the hospital, you don't go to the Waffle House. So yes, it'll be interesting to continue to watch her promote the book. I think anytime she's on mic, it's a win for us here on Wickham, Missouri. So I'm looking forward to that. Now the Congress is returning after their break here. They've got a lot on their docket. This is kind of going to be our first view since the Paxton Cornyn race. Camellia, you've watched a lot of people win and lose in the state house. I mean, do you think that means more trouble with those in the Senate?
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It's interesting to watch the tug and the push and pull, you know, in the party between the different factions, right? And this rocks the boat, and so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that endorsement from Trump has basically been the golden ticket, but he still needs the Senate to get his agenda done. So is him playing in the primary politics going, you know, to play out in the Senate in that they're going to seek some sort of retribution or just push back to say, hey, we've got some control here, too. You often kind of see that between the institutions, right?
Yeah, it would be nice to see Republicans in the Senate take some hard stances on things, right? Like, let's push and get these things done while we have the Senate and the House. That would be good.
I think a lot of people are where you are this morning, Camellia. That is Camellia Peterson from AFP, who is guest hosting with us this morning. Up next, how much is your image worth to you? We're going to talk a little Bill Gates, and then we'll talk more AFP. Stephanie Bell. I am joined by guest co-host this morning, Camelia Peterson of Americans for Prosperity.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. We've got John Marsh and Drake in the house. Randy will return tomorrow. Oh, Drake just raised the roof. My kids...
Who says in the house anymore?
I do.
Like, Big
Randy.
Stephanie in the house. No, come on.
I like it.
In the Big 2-6, it's crazy. Stephanie.
All right. Well, you can. We'll have our millennial Gen Z battles, but I think I'm winning. My kids did raise the roof when they said, "I think this is how you dance it. Danced in dances in your day, Mom." And I was like, "Now I'm triggered." Oh, John's got it. Everyone's in on
Steph's doing the Cabbage Patch in the control room.
Everyone's in on our morning dance party. Someone who I can't imagine busting a move at any sort of event is Bill Gates. And there's a new profile in the Wall Street Journal. I think, what does this headline say? Bill Gates spent years crafting his image. Now it's cracking. Now he is set to go before Congress, a congressional committee on June 10th regarding questions surrounding his interactions with Epstein, the thing that just won't go away. We're still talking about it, but it's important. And apparently he had a lot of conversations with Epstein, and people are wanting to know more about that. But what I couldn't get over in this article, Camelia, was the extent to which he tried to craft his image. And the particular part that just blows my mind, and maybe there is a lesson for candidates here. I might ask you if you think candidates are this concerned. But they said, his employees have spent years cultivating his image down to keeping a custom-sized mannequin to test his outfits for different days of the week. They said there was basically this whole styling group that kept troves of neutral-toned crew and V-neck sweaters, button-down shirts, slacks, and extra pairs of these carbon glasses at an off-site building. And then once options were selected for public-facing engagements, employees sent him 3 options for approval. Well, I guess the approval went to the senior staff. The goal, to depict someone calm and approachable like Mr. Rogers. That's a lot.
That is a lot. I, too, have a custom-sized mannequin that I try my outfits on.
I do. I hate trying on clothes.
Maybe that's what I need to do, right?
Yeah. But that seems kind of crazy. But outfits, I mean, we've seen it in politics before. Steve Jobs infamously always wore the kind of like the uniform. I've heard of that before. And they even say Barack Obama always kind of wore the same thing. It reduces decision fatigue. That makes sense to me.
Well, look at Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's fair. But I guess if you are like that high profile to where you're the face of the company, you don't want to be looking sloppy, but just also like to craft like a Mr. Rogers type image. And then I'm also thinking maybe these like nerdy tech guys need extra help in the wardrobe department.
That may be more true than any of it.
Well, Elon Musk just here not too long ago was saying that we really needed fashion had gotten boring, and we really need to up the game here and start doing something different because we're basically recycling everything now.
That is a fair point. And
there's a big psychological component to this, too. So I think, I understand why they're doing this. I could see why. But do they do, sort of message testing on this and do polling to see which ones poll better?
Oh, probably. Sure.
Well, but I also think the other lesson here is, you can carefully craft your outfits on a custom-sized mannequin, but if you're still talking to a bad guy, it's not going to outweigh the fact that you had really Mr. Rogers-looking outfits.
Yep, that's right. I mean, there's some things perception cannot overcome.
And there's something to be said for a little bit of authenticity, right? You can probably overcome a bad outfit if people feel like you're being you're genuinely yourself. Right. And so I think it can go too far. Now, with the politicos, I think there are lots of them where I feel like they could have been counseled by their team on better dress/appearance.
How about Hillary in her heyday with the goofy pantsuits?
Oh, the pantsuits.
I know. I still struggle to wear a colored pantsuit that someone's going to call me Hillary. I have a few, and it's still, every time I put one on, I'm like, does this look like Hillary Clinton? It's hard to get past. But right now, I know in Missouri politics, I'm like, you can't be a male candidate running for office unless you have the vest. Everyone's got the vest.
Yes.
The
Well, I'll tell you, my pet peeve in the Capitol over the last year has been this trend towards the men with suits wearing it's like a cross between sneakers
The white
and a dress
sole.
shoe. The white soles have
it's
stop
terrible.
that. Don't do that. That's not.
Drake is protesting.
That is the worst take I've ever heard. I'm sorry,
No,
Camelia.
it looks terrible.
Oh my gosh! No,
I've got a pair.
the Nike dunks with the suit. No, it's a fit. You can throw a fit. Come on.
I think shoes say a lot about people and whether, the white sole dress shoes are better than Hey Dudes, but not by much.
No.
Yeah, God forbid we throw a fit here. Come on.
Just wear a pair of Crocs.
I do feel kind of bad for the men because you've only got so many options you can do with the suit, right? And the women have a lot more options.
But you feel bad for them. We are walking around in heels on those marble
this is true.
floors. Sheesh, you can at least put on a dress shoe. It's a flat. Get over it, I feel like.
Okay, what options do we have? Black leather or normal leather? Those are the only two options that we have with dress shoes.
There are some nice ones.
there are some nice men's shoes out there. Oh, yes.
Yeah, they are, and you're making fun of them right now.
Look at Governor Keogh. You'll never see him in anything but cowboy boots.
And I love a good pair of cowboy boots.
That's right.
I think
Cowboy
again,
boots are acceptable?
but again,
You are ridiculous.
It has to be authentic because we've also
This is
seen
Missouri.
folks coming out of the city and they're wearing the cowboy boots and you're like, you've never set foot on anything but concrete in your life, or
Yes, right.
Okay,
you
but
can tell.
but how many farms have you stepped on, Stephanie? Because I know you have your fair share of
a
cowboy
few.
boots.
And also I live in Ashland, Missouri. Our town has a rodeo, so I can legitimately wear cowboy
You don't
boots.
have a
This is
token rodeo. Have you ever
This
farmed
is my
before?
rule. No, I haven't farmed. My
okay.
grandparents had a farm growing up and I spent a lot of time out there.
Okay, that's
so-
fair. That's fair.
Does this count? Okay, on to some more serious things. I saw Governor DeSantis yesterday on Fox was saying this. Oh, hold on just 1 second.
Owners need relief. And so it's my view that if you are a Florida resident and you have a homestead, we want that to be tax-free. And so
So Governor DeSantis came out in favor of property tax relief. We're going to get into talking some more about Americans for Prosperity and how they choose which candidates to offer support for. But property tax property tax relief was a big deal. Camelia, I've seen you tweeting a lot. I've had trouble figuring out exactly what happened, but there were a lot of folks who were hoping for property tax relief this session, and it didn't get done.
Sure. So, the thing that everybody was talking about last summer was this special committee on property tax reform that was going around the state, basically doing town halls and getting input from people. And, people have seen skyrocketing assessments. They're, getting priced out of their homes through taxes. It's been a really big deal. And so for all of the attempts, I think probably the most disappointing thing in this session was that there probably were a lot of really good things that happened, and everything, it seems like, tends to get watered down by the time you get to the end, right? But there were still some good reforms that needed to happen to rein in the rate of assessments, to rein in the state tax commission, several things like that. And the bills that ended up with, they passed a version out of the House, they passed a version out of the Senate, and when that happens, then they appoint what they call a conference committee, and basically a few people from both the Senate and the House come together and they hash out the differences and they agree on that, and everybody on that conference committee has to sign off. And so that happened with the bill that had the property tax reforms on it, and it happened the day before the end of the last day of session. And they got to the committee meeting and they had a deal. They'd had it all worked out. And at the very last minute, literally just before the stroke of midnight, a Republican senator and 2 Democrat senators refused to sign, and that killed it for the entire session.
That's pretty frustrating. Yeah. Now, is that something you think might come back up next session?
Oh, I think so. We would really have loved to see it come up for a special session because people have been asking for this more than anything else. And, there's a lot of good things that can be said about the plan to phase out the income tax and how it impacts property taxes. But we also needed these reforms to the system itself.
All right. So that's one issue that AFP cares about. Let's talk about I think in a lot of conservative, some people will sit out of primaries, right? A little bit and say, I'm ready to support the Republican, whoever that might be in general. in the general election. But AFP has been pretty consistent on getting involved in these Republican primaries and picking somebody to back in many of these races. How, when you're assessing the various candidates, what does that process look like, and what factors or things are you looking for in a candidate that you're saying, yeah, we're going to put people on the ground, we're going to knock doors, we're going to talk about your race in particular?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and really, when people talk about Missouri being a super majority, red state, whatever, but we tend to often legislate purple. There's primaries is that's where if you want to make a difference that you have to get in. So yes, several primaries. And what we look at, if they've already been in office, obviously we're looking at their voting record, right? If they're not, we're looking at, we have them do a survey and we ask where they are on the issues. And, the issue set that we cover are economic issues, healthcare, education, free speech. So we want to know where they stand on those things. And then also it matters, we have a civility standard too. It matters how they engage with people, whether it's online or in person. And so we look at all of those factors. And then we also look at who do we think needs the help that we can, because we don't get involved in every race. We don't do a rubber stamp endorsement. If we do an endorsement, it means we are going to invest in some way in that race and that we feel like that we can make a difference. And I think that, and it's a mixed bag, right? There are some races where, you clearly have the best candidate in terms of, not only principles and, how they conduct themselves, but also in leadership skills. Those are all factors. And then there are also some races where, you take the best candidate that you have, and sometimes you're playing defense because the other candidates are so much worse that you need to protect that seat, right? So
that's fair. And so, for example, one candidate that AFP is supporting is Senator Curtis Trent. And he's big on tax issues, the capital gains tax cut last year. He's been a huge supporter of the income tax relief. We're going to talk more about that amendment. While we have Camelia here, if you have questions about that income tax phase out and elimination, she has studied it. She knows it. She's been knocking doors, talking to people. If you have questions about that, give us a text, 573-874-9390. We're going to try to answer some of your questions about that this morning. And up next, we are going to get to making Missouri healthy again. And I'm going to ask you the question, should you be drinking more alcohol?
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Right. We are making Missouri healthy again, and I kind of like to go on a detour when Randy is away. The kids will play. And I saw this TikTok over the weekend, and it was a young kid talking, basically digesting an interview that he had seen online and said, should we be drinking more? And the kid was saying, hey, like I went, like many Gen Zers, decided a few years ago that alcohol wasn't for me. There's a big movement right now. We know from the business stats we've been following that a lot of Gen Zers are drinking less, whether that means they are just not drinking or whether they're substituting other things like cannabis. I don't know that the data is fully fleshed out on that. But I went and found the source interview that this kid was talking about, and it was an interview between Andrew Huberman, which a lot of people follow him for like health and other life advice, and Scott Galloway. I was trying to figure out, Scott Galloway is a professor of marketing at New York University's Stern School of Business, and he was talking about loneliness and isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we got into this topic last week, and Randy was citing off a bunch of studies about how social media is isolating kids like never before. And Scott Galloway is talking about alcohol's potential role in that. So here's a little bit of that.
I think personally, the risks to a 25-year-old liver are dwarfed by the risks of social isolation. And I worry that with 40% fewer pubs now post-COVID in Britain, and a lack of mating and a lack of connection, that the data I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, that 95% of people are able to integrate alcohol and drugs into their life without serious consequences.
Now, he goes on to say, certainly there are folks who are prone to addiction, have a family history, who have serious issues, and you need to, monitor that for yourself. But he said, the risks to your health of social isolation are significant. And that alcohol can act as a little bit of a social lubricant, can bring people together. And, we have to kind of weigh the risks and the benefits. And the kid that I was watching that was on the TikTok was saying, I'm rethinking my decision because I have felt more like he was kind of wavering on this decision. Camelia, where are you at on this?
Like, I think that it can be helpful for some people. What's been fascinating to me over the last few years has been there's been a real rise in coffee shop culture.
Oh, yeah.
And so, people all the young people I know are at the coffee shops. But I've noticed that so many of the coffee shops now are combining in there. Now they're also doing wine and beer. Like, they have everything now, right? They've kind of taken that coffee shop culture and incorporated alcohol into it. And you can also get, coffee cocktails. And so,
you might want a mimosa or an Aperol spritz with your brunch on the weekend, right? Yeah. I get that. You're right. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but yeah, a lot of the coffee shops that I go to, especially on the weekends, will serve adult beverages.
And mocktails are such a big thing now.
Mocktails as well. I know Galloway goes on here and says this.
Glass of wine. Or let me put it this way, it is easier with a glass of wine. It's a lot of fun. I smoked a lot of pot and I drank a lot of alcohol in my 20s and in college, and it created a lot of wonderful bonding moments. And so what I'm saying...
So he's talking about the bonding, and he even talks, he's a father now, and he talks about conversations, I believe, with his son. He advocates and says the drinking age should be lowered to 18. He thinks that would lessen folks. It would help. You wouldn't be, turn 21 and take a bunch of shots.
Right.
Like, he thinks culturally that would be better for us. And he said he takes his boarding school son to a local pub on weekends and says that after one beer, his son actually opens up and talks about what's going on in his life. And so when he's talking about that bonding, he says the alcohol kind of brings about a vulnerability that maybe he wouldn't otherwise get with his son. And those conversations are meaningful. So I just thought it was with all the data and all the anti-drinking movement, I thought this was an interesting conversation. I hadn't really heard it talked about in this way before, but I think isolation is something we really have to worry about.
Right. Yeah. And it's almost like moderation is a good thing.
Moderation in all things.
Yes.
Yes. I like that, Camelia.
Including moderation.
All right. Up next, we're going to talk to the director of the Department of Natural Resources, Kurt Schaefer, about the Parks and Soils tax you're going to see on that August ballot.
From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters.
It's a failed country. Everybody knows it. They don't have electricity. They don't have money. They don't have really anything. They don't have food.
It's your morning addiction.
And now it does look like we're back to the situation that we were before.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell. The Zimmer News Team.
First and foremost, family is first, and I think she's doing the right thing.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
I'm Stephanie Bell, joined by guest co-host Camelia Peterson of Americans for Prosperity. Thanks for being with us this morning, especially after Mother Nature put on quite a show here in mid-Missouri overnight. John, is there any reported damage that you're aware of?
Well, we did hear reports of Cole County, Jefferson City had over 1,000 people dealing with power outages as of the 4 o'clock hour this morning. Haven't checked since, but it was. I think the largest part was some power outages all across.
And I think most of the damage was done to my sleep. It was quite a loud evening. But we are glad you're with us this morning, and we are talking August ballot measures. There is going to be a pretty full ballot in August, and we want to make sure you have the information when you head into the ballot box. So we are joined by Director of Department of Natural Resources, Kurt Schaefer. We're going to talk a little bit about Amendment 1, and what's the quick headline of that? Are you calling it the Parks and Soils Tax Measure, Director Schaefer?
Well, yeah. Hey. Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Stephanie. How are you doing?
We're doing great, other than the lack of sleep.
Yeah, my dogs woke me up too. So anyway, so the technical name, the official name is the Missouri Parks, Soils, and Water Sales Tax. And so, as you mentioned, it'll be on the August ballot. So there'll be 4 measures on the ballot. It will be Amendment 1. So the Parks, Soils, and Water Sales Tax first passed in 1984. And a couple of years later, it had a sunset put on it when it was renewed. So it is up for renewal every 10 years. So the last time it was up was 2016. Every year since 1984, it has passed each time with a larger margin. So in 2016, which is the last time it was passed, it passed by over 80%, and it passed in all 114 counties in the state of Missouri. So it will be on in August. What that tax is, it is a 1/10 of 1 cent sales tax. So 1/10 of 1% on all sales taxes collected across Missouri that goes to basically 2 sources. So 50% of that goes to Missouri State Parks, and 50% of it go to the Soil and Water Conservation Program. And both of those are administered by the Department of Natural Resources. So for the 50% that goes to parks, so right now that tax generates about $136 million. So it's split in half. It's about $68 million goes to parks. So we have 93 state parks and historic sites in Missouri. We are one of 8 states where our parks are still free, in large part, in part, because of, it is actually funded by this tax. It really... Parks gets no general revenue, for example. This is what funds it. And then the other 50% goes to the soil and water districts. So the Soil and Water Conservation Program has an office in all 114 counties. And basically what they do is they help offset soil erosion and protect water quality. And so they get about $68 million, the other 50% of this. And it's entirely what funds that program as well.
And so I think some people are a bit confused because I know the ballot title calls it Soil and Water Conservation. And so we also have a conservation sales tax, but that's something different, right?
Yeah, and that's a little unfortunate because it is, you're exactly right. It's in the ballot language and it says for soil and water conservation. That's the soil and water, 50% of this. And it does cause a little bit of confusion because the Missouri Department of Conservation, which is a completely separate agency from the Department of Natural Resources, they also have their own dedicated tax. It is 1/8 of 1 cent, but it does not have a sunset. So their tax never comes up for renewal like our tax does.
Now, I know you mentioned that we're one of several states, or a very few states, that still has free national parks. So whether we're talking Table Rock, whether we're talking Echo Bluffs, whether we're talking Rockbridge, we have some pretty awesome parks. When we're talking about that, though, this kind of like dedicated parks tax, you see that a lot at the local level, right?
Yeah, you see at the local level, which obviously is usually a smaller percentage, kind of what that municipality or that local government does. But, in Missouri, we have 93 state parks and historic sites. That's a lot of state parks. And our state park system nationally is usually ranked anywhere, in the top 3 or 4. I believe personally that our state park system is the best park system in the country. It's run extremely well. It provides great recreational and outdoor opportunities for all Missourians, and it's free of charge, which is really important, for families that are on a budget, especially right now with things as expensive as they are. We see very high usage. We get about 20 million visitors a year to Missouri state parks, which is a lot. But when you think about it, especially with gas prices where they are right now, and you want to go, take a week off with your family and have a trip and have a memorable time, something your kids, for example, will remember for the rest of their lives, you're going to a Missouri State Park. That's where you're going, and you're going to have a great time.
Good morning, Director Schaefer. When people go look at the ballot, sometimes the language is confusing. And so can you explain to them, is this a tax increase? Is it a decrease? Is it neither? What should they expect?
So it is neither. As I said, this tax first passed in 1984. A few years later, like I said, it had a sunset put on it because initially it just expired, and then Missourians basically chose to reenact that. So now it has a provision. So every 10 years it comes up on the ballot, and basically it's a renewal. I mean, it's a renewal of a tax that's been in effect since 1984. The 1/10 of 1 cent that goes to this does not change. So it's always been the same. So it's not an increase. It's not a decrease. It's simply a renewal of a tax that has been in existence since 1984.
Kurt, talk to us about it. And this is something we kind of alluded to when you were on with us just the other day. What's the Lee Zeldin era and the EPA changes, presumably under the Trump administration, made for one, your department, and two, for Missouri as a whole?
So the way that EPA works with the state of Missouri, so basically most environmental laws actually are federal laws that have provisions that say as long as a state is at least as strict as what the federal government requires, then the state is the primary entity to carry that out. And we are certainly a delegated state, like that law says. And so we deal mostly with EPA Region 7. There are multiple regions. So we deal a little bit with EPA in D.C., but they obviously set the policy for these regions. We are in Region 7, which is Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. We've seen a little bit of change. In my personal opinion, not a lot. We've seen some flexibility on some things that, frankly, in the state of Missouri, we've been seeking flexibility for years. But kind of a whole-scale change, we really have not seen that. One of the biggest things that we're working with EPA on is, that St. Louis metropolitan area, which is St. Louis County, part of Jefferson County, St. Charles County. It's a non-attainment area for ozone, which is an air pollutant that comes from vehicles, which is why you have to have your vehicle inspected for emissions in that area. That really has been in compliance from our position for a number of years and should be lifted. So the people in that part of the state should really no longer have to have their cars inspected like that, which can be a cost and a hassle. But we're working with EPA on that, and we have seen a little more cooperation with EPA on trying to get that changed. But for the most part, it's kind of business as usual.
Back to Amendment 1 and the Parks and Soils tax. I saw This Week in Missouri Politics over the weekend, and I think I heard Jack Cardetti, who is on the left, talk about this and said it's not only a bipartisan issue, it's really a nonpartisan issue. And he talked about it in terms of, you're a former budget chair, in a way that I hadn't heard it talked about before, but, in having this dedicated tax, you really keep the politicians out of your parks in that you're not having these fights in the state house over funding parks. Would you agree with his assessment that it's a nonpartisan issue and it's a way to kind of keep politics away from the parks?
Well, remember, I am the former appropriations chair in the Missouri Senate,
yes.
And so I take a little bit of an issue with that.
I think I said budget. Sorry, I meant appropriations. Yes.
The legislature should have oversight over the state budget. But, in this case, the people of the state of Missouri have chosen to have a dedicated amount, which means the money still has to be appropriated by the legislature for anyone to spend it. And so that's a little bit of a misnomer. People don't understand that. So it may be a dedicated tax that can only be spent on a given thing, in this case, Missouri State Parks and soil and water conservation. But the legislature still has to appropriate the ability to spend that. So the legislature still does have some control over it. What they can't do is take that money and use it for a separate purpose. And so, I think it's just a position by the people of the state of Missouri, 40 years ago that this is what they wanted, and it's worked very well since.
And you're right, like for families who are looking for a summer getaway, it is so important. I love taking my kids over to Ha Ha Tonka when we're down at the lake, and I always am shocked when I'm traveling out of state and I roll up to a state park and I have to go to the booth and they're like, it's going to be $20. I'm thinking, wait, what? I mean, It really is special that our families can visit our state parks for free.
Yeah, and those other states that charge, it ranges. I know California, for example, it's very expensive to enter a state park in California. But like I said, Missouri is only one of 8 that does not charge. And it really is. It's a huge issue for families, but it creates those great opportunities that families remember for the rest of their lives. And that's really what Parks is there for.
All right. That is your rundown on Amendment 1 from Director of Department of Natural Resources, Kurt Schaefer. We are going to have a very full August ballot, so make sure you get out and read that information. I also saw we're going to have you on soon. You've got a new, AI, Camelia was telling me this.
Right.
A new data center.
Forum at Missouri S&T.
Okay, so you got a forum coming up?
I would love to come on and talk about data centers. A lot of questions. Public's very interested in that.
Okay, we'll have you back on about that topic real soon. But folks, that August ballot will be here before you know it, so make sure you're getting informed. Again, that's Amendment 1. All right, up next, let's talk about Governor DeSantis' property tax relief package.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
when you have lost all hope for Gen Z, they surprise you a little bit. And we're going to play a little of this audio for you here in just a sec. But Shry, let's get his name right. Shry Parikh, I might be pronouncing that slightly, won the National Spelling Bee. We were talking a little bit about the Spelling Bee last week, but have you seen the audio, Drake, for this?
No.
Oh, my goodness. So he bounces back spelling 32 words in 90 seconds to win the Spelling Bee. And if you haven't heard it, it is insane. I have trouble spelling because I usually type in Word and it corrects all my bad spelling anyway, but spelling out loud, I feel like, is another level of spelling. Amelia, are you a good speller?
Yes, but if I'm not sure about something, I have to write it out because I can tell if it looks right.
But just off the top of your head, no way. Listen to this.
Enthymeme.
ENTHYME.
Iguape.
IGUAP.
Denebola.
DNEBOLA.
Fedodo.
FAISDODO.
Coathai.
CYWYDDAU.
Pohutakawa.
POHUTUKAWA.
Monadnock.
MONADNOCK.
Amut.
EMUT.
Nanofossil.
NanoFOSSIL.
I mean, and it just goes on for
I don't know if I can listen that fast, right?
Well, and he's almost having to wait for the guy to pronounce the words. The guy's like, I don't know how to pronounce this. And then he gets it out and then he knows how to spell it all already. But so congrats to him. That is an incredible feat. I don't know how that translates into the real world. You think about all the things you learn in school and that you're like, I mean, that's not a skill.
Look, we need some people who know how to spell to feed information into the AI because the AI learns from us, right?
There we go. Yeah. I think, my AI model is not learning from my bad spelling. Thank goodness for all of you because that would not be good.
Before we move on from that, Stephanie, you're underselling your bad spelling with AI. I'm sorry. I peeked over one day and you were typing in AI. That was possibly the worst thing.
I do type in AI, but I don't worry about my spelling. I'm like, it'll figure out what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, and you didn't, and I do the same thing, so I'm not trying to throw shade at you. But I do the same thing, but also the grammar is so bad. It's so bad.
I got corrected by my Gen Z son because I think I said good, and he goes, "You mean well?" And
I love that. Sorry.
Yeah, I was like,
wait, or more and fewer.
Yeah. And I was like,
who and that.
Sheesh. So yes, I'm constantly getting corrected. But speaking of Gen Z, they have upped their pet ownership game. And I was talking to Camelia in the break. She has Drake's all excited. Drake has birds. Camelia, what do you got at home?
I have a couple of cats and a garage cat that's outside, a little more feral, and then we have an Australian Shepherd.
Well, according to a 2025 survey by the American Pet Products Association, Gen Z households owned 18.8 million of them owned a pet in 2024. That's a 43% increase from 2023. Wow. So they're huge pet owners, and interestingly, they also love cats. They said while dog adoptions stabilized in 2024 and 2025, cat adoptions were up 15% among people under 30, which I feel like for millennials, cats kind of got a bad rep. They're like, you don't like cats, do you?
Yeah, right.
But apparently,
cat lady.
But is that a Taylor Swift effect? She's really into cats.
Maybe so.
But I think on social media, I think cats are back in vogue, maybe.
Well, you know what everybody watches on the AI is all the cat slop videos.
That is for sure. They're saying 500 Gen Z respondents in this survey said they don't see a difference between a pet and a human child.
I mean,
that's very Gen Z. They said 18% said they'd sell an organ to save their pet's life. And
I would do that, yeah.
They said...
Oh, I don't think I'd do that.
Gen Z...
They make more pets.
They said Gen Z pet owners are more likely than older generations to buy a cake or throw a party for their pet's birthday. Have you ever had a pet birthday, Camelia?
I've never had a pet birthday, but I will say we do have pet Christmas. They get Christmas gifts, and Cassie is our dog, and she loves to open presents.
Aww.
So she tears the paper off, and it's so much fun for us too.
I think I'll let that slide. Drake?
No, my family is so bad, especially my mom. So our cat now Its birthday is on May 17th, the day before mine. There have been multiple years my mom doesn't make a birthday post for me, but makes a post about the cat or the dog, or like maybe like posts on my timeline, happy birthday, but makes a full collage for the cat. It's always been a pet peeve of mine.
What's your cat's name?
I don't know. I call it the white one.
He's clearly triggered by the fact that his mom likes the cat more than him. Well, Gen Z is continuing to change our culture, and we're watching it. And most of the time, I dog on them, but this time, I kind of see. I had a cat growing up.
It helps with the loneliness epidemic, right?
I think that's right. It probably does help with the loneliness epidemic.
I had one named after President Obama.
Oh, hey, John. All right, coming up, let's get into some of those other ballot measures, and I want to hear more from Camelia on this income tax measure. All right, we are trying to answer some of your questions about what is going to appear on the August ballot here in just a few. It's already June, Camelia.
Oh, don't say that.
Do you have an election day countdown?
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to remember how many days we're at now. It's like, I think we're at like 67 or 8 now.
Oh
It's
my
like
goodness.
terrible.
Well, if you're like Jean was texting us, said, where can I read about the amendments in one place? Certainly there are campaigns standing up on both sides, and a lot of those campaigns have websites. I assume, Camelia, you've got some stuff on your own AFP website.
Sure. And when it comes to that's probably part of our problem. Like if you want to read the actual ballot language, sos.mo.gov is your best place for the actual ballot language. If you want to read pros and cons of different things, there I think are still things that are coming up on the income tax. Really kind of the central site for reading all about it is MissouriPromise.com. That's kind of everything about income tax. There are things on our site, AFPMissouri.com too, like the town hall, the teletown hall that Governor Kehoe and the bill sponsors did here a month or so ago. If you want to listen to that, that's on there as well.
If you haven't had a chance to make one of the town halls and you have a question, you can text us 573-874-9390. But first, let's just talk the basics. What does Amendment 5 do?
Sure. It just asks voters if they would like to allow the legislature to restructure the tax code to allow for phasing out the state income tax. And it does it in a very a lot of comparisons to Kansas, right? But Missouri has been very measured and cautious in their approach to this, and making sure that we've learned from the mistakes that other people have made. You can't cut your taxes all at once and then spend a lot more money. That doesn't work. So, it takes, if you close a lot of the loopholes that we have in our current sales tax code, and as you get revenue increased from that lowers your income tax until it phases out. There's a lot of guardrails in place. There's a limited amount of time we can do it in. So, but we need it's a big change. So the voters need to sign off on that.
Certainly. And what does the measure not do? Are you hearing a lot of misinformation? It's going to do this. It's going to do this.
It doesn't defund your public schools. So they were very, very specific about that. It will not do that. It will not touch school funding. I think that there's a lot of the public school districts out there and the administration are putting out information saying that this is going to harm the schools, and it's not. They were very specific about that because nobody wants that to happen.
Now, we talked a little bit earlier about the property tax fail in the state legislature this session, that you were really hoping to see some property tax relief. And I know there are a lot of folks out there who are seeing the same. How could this measure impact property taxes?
Sure. So I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that property taxes, whether it's real property or whether it's personal property, is so local in Missouri. And this is different than some states in how we fund things, but it's all locally voted on, assessed, collected, and spent. Like the state, that's why it's so hard to get property tax reform done, is because it's not a state level tax, it's local. And so, but what this measure does is this is the state kind of stepping in and saying, look, in the restructuring the sales tax code and closing some of those loopholes, if the local governments also get kind of increased revenue or windfall, they don't just get a windfall, right, and extra money that they can then spend. If they get increased revenue, they have to apply that to lowering another tax. Now, that you could say, okay, we don't want grocery tax, which is another local tax as well, so you could reduce that. But they could also take and apply that to reducing your property tax.
So specifically in some of those areas, I think we've heard a lot about Jackson County, other areas that the citizens say we want property tax relief. The locals would then have the option.
That's right. Yeah, I mean that would give them the option in the state. I think what people don't realize is that the biggest resistance that the state government has when they're doing property tax reform legislation is from your local governments, is from your municipalities, your counties.
So you've been having these events around the state. What are you hearing from folks other than property tax relief? What are you hearing from folks at these town halls?
Well, there's a lot of information going out around there, and it's being put out by the left, but it's scary sounding, right? So people don't know what to believe. And probably the biggest thing you hear is, oh, you're giving the legislature a blank check to increase your sales tax, which is definitely not the case. They literally cannot do that within the confines of the measure that's on the ballot. So I think that people are afraid that it's going to really raise their sales tax rates, and that has never, ever, ever been the plan. And I've seen the numbers crunched over and over again, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's not. I don't even think, like, when you talk about what the sales tax rate could be, people will say, 15, 20, 30%. Not even, nowhere near that, not even 10. Like, the goal is to keep this broad and low to make it as fair as possible for everyone. And we especially want to look out for, when you have essential services and things that you're buying, like, nobody wants to add extra sales taxes onto that.
And ultimately, the folks who, as you had indicated, are closing the loopholes or deciding, which goods and services should be taxed and what the rates should be. Those are people like Bishop Davidson, who we're going to talk to at 8:10. Those are people like John Martin here in mid-Missouri. Those are our elected Republican leaders. So if we have a concern about what that sales tax might look like, we have then access to those legislators to talk to them about that. And John Martin's a business owner. I don't see him levying. He doesn't want high sales tax like the rest of us.
None of us want to pay that. And, here's the thing, we have over 200 exemptions currently in the sales tax code. And a lot of those exemptions are on luxury services. So, we need to let the luxury people pay for their luxury services.
Luxury services. I like that. And I think that is, for working families, right? Like, whether we're talking groceries or, I have 3 kids and there's certain, I got to buy 3 backpacks. I got to buy 3 sets of school supplies or whatever. And so those are the kinds of conversations that, should this measure pass, the legislature will have to address.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Well, Camille, isn't it true, too, that the naysayers on this, like you said, keep pointing to this big 10, 15, 20% sales tax, when in reality you've got cities like Columbia that are at 8 or 9% already, where I don't know if it'd be that much of a burden for the average person.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I don't think that I think the increase that you're going to see is going to be negligible, especially to your lower income and working class families. And so I think that, the idea, and this is a very conservative principle, right, is that if you're going to do taxes, because taxation is theft, right? But, if you're going to do taxes, the more broadly you can spread that out to lower the burden on everybody, the better it is for us in our economy.
And I think we point to other states who have had massive growth with no income tax. But I think also as a matter of principle, what we incentivize, we get more of. And the government isn't super great at incentivizing the right behavior. And so a lot of folks, you look at that income tax, and whether, I tend to look more at the federal tax, but it's the same is true for the state income tax. Well, I can earn so much more money. And when I'm earning so much more money, I am giving, and depending on where you are on the scale, but especially when it comes to the federal government, you're giving more money, but you're giving that percentage over to the government. So are we incentivize people to earn more, or, and what we constantly ask from the government is spend less, spend less, spend less. And the argument for a sales tax is that, you could, if you wanted to pay less in tax, you could, invest more. You have the personal choice over your money to potentially lower your own tax burden if that's your choice.
Yep. A lot of talk too about the President Trump had talked about eliminating the federal income tax, right? We would all love that. And sometimes a lot of times the states need to lead the way and show the federal government how it's done.
Right. They're 50 separate experimental entities, and oftentimes we can learn from each other. And I think that.
And lots of states are going for this right now, right? I mean, there's literally a national race to zero when it comes to income tax.
And the idea is that a lot of companies, when they're looking to locate, are locating in these states with lower income tax.
That's right.
And they bring employees, they bring construction jobs, they bring all sorts of different types of growth.
Which means more houses to sell, right? I mean, it's better for everybody.
Yeah. So but you do have kind of an uphill battle, right, to get folks educated and to get people into the polling place. And so talk to us about what AFP is currently engaged in. If people are interested in finding out more, how they can do that.
Sure, there's a lot of groups that are working on this, right? And so our forte is in grassroots. And so we are going all across the state doing town halls, because we did this last year too, because, this has been in the talks for a long time. And the town halls were really the best thing. Like, I learned so much there because you're actually having the conversations with the legislators who know this inside and out. And you're talking, and they're so good. Like, everybody that we've had do these is so good about, answering those really blunt questions. And sometimes you're like, this is upsetting because it's a big change. But it's just been, I think, a learning process for all of us, because we've had those conversations and answered those hard questions. And that's what needs to happen.
Well, and you talk about it being a big change. And I think folks are looking at our, Missouri over the last however many years, decades, and saying, look, like, our revenue numbers aren't growing and keeping pace with other states. And so we can continue to do the same thing, or we can do something different and try to get ahead and raise our.
I'm super excited for what this means for our kids too. Like, there's, when we talk about the future of the state, and, when I think about my two girls, I have one that's just getting ready to go into her senior year, and my older one is 23. She's working, right? This is going to benefit her so much, both of them. And so to me, that's even more exciting. Like, I will see it in my lifetime. If we get this done, I will see it in my lifetime. But what it will do for the future of Missouri, for our kids and keeping our kids here, to me, I think that's just incalculable in value.
Having a sister who moved to Nashville,
to
Tennessee, I can appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Certainly, I've got 3 young kids and would love to be able to tell them that Missouri is on the same plane as Tennessee when it comes to income tax. So really good conversation, Camelia. Of course, we're going to be talking to Representative Bishop Davidson. He's been at some of these events helping educate folks. He's on the House Budget Committee, so can continue to answer your questions. We're getting those questions rolling in on the text line, so continue to send them 573-874-9390. And up next, we've got John Marsh. John, what's on your docket?
How do you PO a mudslinger?
I got stung this year. I don't know that I want to know. All right. Up next, we'll have John Marsh's segment on Wake Up Missouri.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Wisconsin driver found out the hard way that road closed signs are there for a reason. According to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation social media post last week, a Milwaukee County driver not only encountered a road closed sign, but got out of his pickup, removed the sign, and drove straight into freshly poured concrete.
Oh.
Yep. W. shared a photo of the truck's submerged tires and noted the driver, quote, cemented their inability to adhere to signs. Police and road crews had to employ heavy machinery to haul the truck out. On a personal note, when I was working on a concrete crew on a big project many, many moons ago as a young guy, we had a cement truck that had its parking brake slip, ended up in our just poured pad, and they had to go to the big project next door to get a crane to pull it out. And the truck almost ran over our rod buster.
So
he dived out of the way at the last minute.
And then you had to start the project over, I assume.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is a mess.
People are wild.
I've moved a road closed sign a time or two.
No.
You know, they used to do them in downtown, John, in Jefferson City, and they'd put them, when we were doing events, they'd put them right before the alley, so then you couldn't access those alleys right behind High Street.
I
and
think
that's
they
where,
still do that, don't
That's
they?
where a lot of the parking is. I'm not advising you to do that, but I didn't see any wet concrete anywhere.
Jefferson City has parking issues.
That's for sure.
I
just asked Tobler.
I had one time when I went into one of those road work places, and I will never do it again. It was where there was a rock quarry back in my hometown, and it had half of the road caved in, and it was like a 50-foot drop. The road was closed for a reason. Do not go past those signs if you can avoid
Good
them.
advice from producer Drake. Also, every time I've gotten a flat tire, I feel like I'm driving through like an area with construction, even if the road's not closed. You're shaking your head, and it's like, they're building new houses or something, and that stuff rolls off the construction truck, and I get a nail, and it's like every time. It's really frustrating. But yeah, Camelia, you bring up the parking in Jefferson City. I think last week we reported, I think it was out of the News Tribune, that they
saw that.
They've increased their parking
Quite a little increase.
ticket revenue. I think it's doubled in the first part of
Private
this.
contractor running the show now in Jefferson City as well.
I will not
Are you
talk
contributing
about
to the
how
parking
much
fund?
I've contributed to that.
You got to pay those meters.
Wow. Yeah, it's been something else, I'll tell you what.
Well, and I think, it's tough because we lost the parking garage. So the parking has been a struggle. I think once we get that conference center up and running, which I assume, is that still a go, John? I think it is.
Still in progress, I guess.
Yeah, that parking garage came down in a hurry. And I think once we get that additional parking, certainly that will help. But and not being in session for the rest of us who have to work in downtown helps out quite a bit.
I bet. Somebody's had a good idea. I thought they told me that when all this is going on is that the state has those lots down at the bottom of the hill, right from the Capitol, and they were like, why don't they build a parking garage like on one of those, and then you could pay to. I think there's lots of ways we could do this to make it more convenient. I'd be willing to pay for like a monthly pass or whatever.
Right. Well, and that's what a lot of people don't know. Jefferson City, there are lots that are not right next to the Capitol, that where my law office is. We can pay monthly and we can park in a lot. And there are lots down the hill, down on McCarty. But, there are folks when it rains or when they've got stuff to carry or when you're wearing heels, they want to be able to park right outside the door. And when I was doing a lot of work with downtown Jefferson City, it's like you realize even if you park in the next block, you're still probably walking less than you have to walk to get into the Walmart. It just feels longer. And so it's again, we're talking a lot this morning about education. It's about educating people about the length of their walk. It's really not that hard.
It's not that bad.
It's not. So pay those meters and take a little walk. You will be better for it. All right, up next, we're going to talk to Representative Bishop Davidson.
From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters.
It's a failed country. Everybody knows it. They don't have electricity. They don't have money. They don't have really anything. They don't have food.
It's your morning addiction.
And now it does look like we're back to the situation that we were before.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell. The Zimmer News Team.
First and foremost, family is first, and I think she's doing the right thing.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
You know, some musicians want to play music for everybody, and some musicians seem to have segmented their audiences the same way politicians have. But this is Freedom 250, and the celebration of the 250 is a nonpartisan event.
Amen, Doug Burgum.
What happened to I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, right? I mean, like, what happened to music bringing everybody together?
It seems like everything now is a partisan event, and it's just frustrating that the left can't even celebrate America's birthday without making it political.
Sad.
I am sad about it. Musicians are dropping like flies from that event, and we'll continue to watch and see how the whole thing plays out. But one part of America's Fair is that they're going to have booths for every state, and we're going to be able to showcase all of the great things about Missouri. We are pleased this morning to be joined by Representative Bishop Davidson out of Greene County to talk about some of the good things that are going on in Missouri. Now, you just wrapped up the legislative session. We've been talking a little bit about the income tax proposal. We're going to get there, but tell us about some of the other wins for you this legislative session.
I mean, some of the other wins for me that I had worked on personally, there were two other big priorities of mine, and one did get done, albeit it was a step in the right direction. That was clean slate, just giving those who have previous drug offenses in their past, after they've served their sentence, after they've served their time, their parole, if they have continued to not be a criminal for the years following that, then they have a public record that is expunged, and that allows them to restore their credit score and to get jobs easier and things of that nature. And so that was definitely a win, and criminal justice reform that I think has been needed for some time. And if you look into our history and the founders were big criminal justice guys. And so I was really excited about that. It took a few years to get that one done. The other bill I had was a physical activity bill, physical activity requirement for all of our students. And it got through Senate committee, got through the House, got through Senate committee, and it didn't go further than that. But it was the first year that I introduced it, and I'm pretty pleased with how far along that had gotten.
We're big on the MAHA movement here, and whether that's making America healthy again or making Missouri healthy again, I think that's important work. So hopefully that comes up again next session. Also, you are the House Budget Vice Chairman and serve on the subcommittee on appropriations for education. Let's talk a little bit about education funding this session.
Yeah. So, I mean, education funding continued to be at sort of a record high. Last year, we increased K-12 public ed funding by almost $500 million. And I think the previous high watermark was 180 or 190, if I'm not mistaken. And before that, the previous high watermark was something like 80 million of new dollars. And so altogether, we're well over $4 billion for public education.
Now, the messaging we hear from the Democrats, though, is that the foundation formula isn't fully funded and we're cutting education. Talk to us about your response to that.
Yeah, I mean, not appropriating a dollar because it was asked for is not cutting funding. There's a big difference. And so I could go to the government and say, hey, listen, I want $100 billion. And they go, we have no idea who you are. Why would we ever give you money? We're giving you $0. And then I run around yelling, well, they cut me by $100 billion. No, they never were giving me that money in the first place. And so you can't really call it a cut. And as far as the foundation formula is concerned, that has been a political tool used for far too long. It was something passed over 20 years ago. It was incredibly outdated. It was based off of a handful of school districts from rich parts of Missouri. And it then says that those dollars that they receive are the same dollars that all students need to receive. And then it holds the districts harmless, and it's got some other challenging pieces to it. Anyways, it's something that's been outdated. That's why the governor pulled together a task force to review the foundation formula. They're in year 2 of a 2-year project right now. I think they have a report due in December, and everyone agrees that the foundation formula is outdated. It needs rewriting. And so why we would be bound by that doesn't make any sense. But it's not a cut. It's actually, like I said, more dollars than we've ever given public education before.
Bishop, one of the things that I've heard some comments on is that there wasn't a lot done. You didn't hear much about education in this last session. We did, continue to put money into the Mo Scholars program. Do you see that being a bigger piece for the legislature next year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The reason that it got some, more funding and Missouri Scholars is a fantastic program is because the people in Missouri are recognizing it as a fantastic program. It's got a long wait list now, and we're trying to meet those needs, meet those demands. I think that it should always be a part of the conversation, but I also think that legislation, when originally passed 5 years ago, and it expanded, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago now.
We are speaking with Representative Bishop Davidson, who is the vice chair of the House Budget Committee and represents parts of Greene County.
When you guys come back in 2027, Bishop, what do you think on property tax reform? How high on the list of priorities will that be?
I think property tax reform is high up on the list. And so, I know that you had mentioned income tax reform. That bill actually provides the most significant path forward to reducing property tax ever in the state of Missouri. And so that constitutional amendment is a tax reform amendment that includes the elimination of income tax, that includes the largest reduction that we've ever seen in property tax, that includes reforming our sales tax code. And so I think property tax is a huge deal, and it should be a big part of the conversation. It has been a big part of the conversation, will continue to be.
We talked a little earlier about this. So it requires the legislature, if they see revenue growth, to go ahead and reduce that income tax. But then it provides the legislature the authority to restructure the sales tax code to make up some of those revenues. And we talked about, those decisions then, if, as you're sitting in the state legislature, will come to folks like you. So when I think Camelia was saying she hears at town halls, oh my gosh, we're going to get a 30% sales tax rate, or, these staggering numbers, or I don't want sales tax on this. Can you talk to us as you approach that sales tax question, how you're going to approach it and how you think your Republican colleagues are going to approach it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all just a big mathematical equation, right? And the variables within that mathematical equation, there are 4 of them. One is the date of full implementation, or when do you eliminate the income tax? Is it 2032? Is it 2034? When is that? Another is, what is the sales tax base? How many loopholes exist? How many exemptions exist? Right now, we have an incredible number of exemptions, over 200 exemptions, from small ones like textbooks to large ones like services. The third question, or the third variable, is the rate of tax. Right now, we're at 4.225% state sales tax rate. And the fourth one is a revenue picture. Does this cost the state? Is it revenue neutral so that it's $0? Or does it cost the state? Is it $500 million? Is it $400 million? The legislation specifically prohibits the state from generating revenue, so it has to be revenue neutral or less, and we know that. But those are the 4 big variables, and I would say I'm very confident that we're going to land somewhere between an implementation date of 2032 to 2036. We're going to land between some range of exempting necessities, and that'll be a robust conversation. We're going to land between some range of probably 5% and 6% for your total rate. That's up from 4.225%. And then we're going to land between a $0 and $500 million fiscal note, or $500 million cost. And I say cost with quotations because it's really $500 million more dollars back in the pockets of Missourians. And so that's where I think the conversation will end up. But working out those details will be a part of that legislative process. The good thing is the constitutional amendment has very clear guardrails in place to guide that conversation. So
There
we're looking
is,
forward to it.
when you were talking about the education piece, a lot of what we, you hear on social media is that this is going to defund education, and myth or fact?
Yeah, I mean, total myth, right? The bill specifically protects public education funding, like very specifically. It states it very clearly, unequivocally, that these adjustments aren't reducing public education funding. And so that's been especially frustrating to see, because it's one thing to debate with people who are, being sincere and have real concerns or real disagreements, right? And they're using facts that are on the page and they're reading the same piece of legislation as you are. And it's an entirely different thing when they know, no, this doesn't affect public education funding. No, this doesn't increase the sales tax to 15%. No, this doesn't do this, that, or the other.
Right. And, Stephanie and I were talking earlier about the town halls, and you have done a lot, if not all of those so far, I think. What, talking about doing the town halls over the next couple of months and having those conversations with voters, what do you think is the best thing to come out of those? What have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I appreciate skepticism. I'm a big skeptic myself. I appreciate distrusting the government. I think we should also be distrustful maybe of things that we just read online randomly as well, right? Or distrust our some of our media outlets. I wish we applied the same sort of standards. But I don't mind the skepticism. I don't mind people being curious. And when someone comes to a town hall, they're trying to learn about it. And so what's happened is, because of all the misinformation around this legislation, people come to a town hall and they go, oh, that's not what I thought it was. You're not who I thought you were. Like, this is a very different situation than what I had presumed. And so I think a lot of people are leaving more open-minded to the idea, if not outright supportive.
I think that's good. If people want to find out more about where the town halls, how they can participate, Camelia, where do they go?
You can find afpmissouri.com, go to our events page, and they're listed on social media. We'll also be boosting other organizations that are doing those with legislators as well.
All right. Good place to get educated, ask those tough questions, and you'll have people like Representative Davidson ready and willing to have an open conversation with you about those topics you're going to see on your August ballot. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk, are we in trouble? Are we saving enough? How much are you saving?
It's Wake Up
It is time for your morning bell. Friday, the markets closed up. The Dow was up 0.72%, the S&P up 0.22%, the Nasdaq up 0.20%. As we look at the sectors, we had big gains in technology, while consumer discretionary, energy, communication services, and consumer staples were all down more than 1%. Now, I posed the question, are we in trouble? I saw this on Twitter last week, and I thought, yikes. There was a tweet about our personal savings rate, and they said in April of 2025, our personal savings rate was 5.5%. Our personal savings rate in April of 2026 is 2.6%, less than half of that. I'm trying to remember what Dave Ramsey said. I think, isn't like 10% the gold standard of what you should be setting aside, Camelia?
That sounds right. Yeah, it's interesting though because we've heard a lot about this over the last couple of years. Of course, inflation has made everything worse, but people like debt is going up and personal savings is going down, and that's not a good combination.
And anecdotally, you shared a story with me. You said you've been on the road a lot with all of these town halls and everything, and you think people are complaining about the price at the pump. We're complaining about the high prices of things. But
Buc-ee's is still packed, man.
I mean, I can't walk out of there for under $100. But you said you've had an opportunity to go in there, and it's packed, and people are just spending left and right.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder, because we all know what the economy's like because we're all paying for things, but I do think that there's kind of a mentality too that people are just spending and they're putting it on the credit cards. And not necessarily everybody. Like I have a 23-year-old daughter, and she's probably saved more money than people twice her age, right? So it definitely, there's some variation, but I think that she's the exception.
Right. And I also saw this journal piece out about how people are paying for things, and it's not a pretty picture. They said Americans now owe a record $1.25 trillion in credit card debt, and the percentage of card balances that are 90 days or more delinquent has climbed to 13.1%, the highest level in 15 years. And then add on top of that, Camelia, this new thing amongst, I don't use this, but I think it's very popular amongst Gen Z, the pay over time.
Oh, yes.
Where
I have seen that pop up on because I have a credit card I run and I pay off every month, right? You get the points or whatever. So I've seen that pop up,
and they're saying people are even using those for small purchases. So you could think I'm just going to pay this over time. Well, you do enough of that, and the bill's eventually going to come due, and then you're going to think, oh no, I didn't realize how much money I was spending when I was delaying. I guess back in the old days, you used to, what was it, layaway or something, where you could is that right? You could
Does anybody do layaway anymore?
Later. It's kind of the same concept, right? Essentially, I would think.
Yeah, well, buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
Well, and so the Journal is profiling other folks, saying a hospital executive making almost $200,000 a year accumulated $15,000 in credit card debt at a 26% interest rate.
Wow.
And so they say roughly 1 in 4 cardholders in higher income communities now carry more than $10,000 in credit card debt. Now, I don't want to scare everyone because I think, for a lot of people, because of credit card points and reward systems and all of that, a lot of people put a lot of money on their credit cards. And like you said, Camelia, try to pay it off every month. But it's easy to get out over your skis. So be stocking that money away. Be careful of your spending habits in
Make
the
a budget.
form. And we talk about it a lot. I budget every penny.
I think Ramsey said 15% for your retirement savings the last time I listened.
That's probably better.
Got some work to do. All right. Well, I've got.
Has America been
So what does a good deal look like for you?
Well, first of all, there's no deal that's good enough because the media will cover it. We're making a great deal. We're going to make it a great deal. Or we'll just go back and finish it off militarily.
Then finish it off militarily, I think, is what a lot of folks are waking up this morning thinking, hey, this was supposed to be 6 weeks. We're now in month 3. I think the American people are getting a little bit tired of all the talking. A little less talk and a lot more action.
Get done or get out, right? I mean, I think that's where people are because, the gas prices are not sustainable, and especially with midterms coming up. Every time you hear somebody talking about how the midterms are going, they always say, well, if gas prices are still above $4 a gallon,
it's going to be
Republicans
rough.
Are right.
It's going to be a bloodbath. Yeah, it's going to be rough. Well, what we are hearing is President Trump has sent a tougher revised peace agreement to Iran as talks appear to have stalled. At the same time, we are saying that we did defensive military action last night. Kuwait says it intercepted strikes from Iran on Monday after these U.S. defensive strikes. And oil prices, as you mentioned, Camelia, have jumped 2% in early trading Monday as the conflict appears to continue. So we're monitoring that situation. While I have a lady-heavy show this morning, I had found this article on the Wall Street Journal. I wonder if the guys disagree with us. But the Wall Street Journal talks about what sets women's friendships apart and keeps them strong. And they followed 2 lifelong friends named Nancy and Debbie who met in the 3rd grade and remained best friends for more than 60 years despite living in different states. And apparently they corresponded via letter, which I don't think a lot of people still do. But, I do get a lot of handwritten notes, mainly from my girlfriends. And it's occasional, but I think it's so meaningful
nice.
when you get a handwritten note, right?
I love handwritten letters.
I'm trying to figure out this book that I read that I would, The Correspondent. And I just read it and I recommended it to my sister. And it's entirely told through a woman who happened, I think was she an actual lawyer? She worked for a lawyer. She might be a lawyer or maybe a paralegal, but the entire book is told through the letters she sent to others and the letters they sent back to her. It's a brilliantly written book if you haven't read it. But I do think when I look around at, as I age, I do think women are better with friendships than men.
That's probably true. I think
wrong. 100% wrong.
Maybe this is a little bit of cultural bias, right? Because women are supposed to be more relational and it just it looks different. And maybe perception is what becomes reality, so to speak, because women just look like they're more relational. But I think no matter, male or female, you have to be intentional in your
They say regular, honest communication is what keeps women's friendships strong. And I go back to those memes of when you go hang out with your girlfriends and then you come back and you're reporting to your husband about what happened, you have all of the tea, all of the details, and you're like, and so and she, this at her job and this and this and this, and then they go do a guys hangout and you're like, how's Joe? And you're like, good.
He wrecked his car.
Yeah, you get no details. You're like, what did you talk about for 4 hours? And
guys don't talk about feelings. Women can talk forever about feelings and about how they feel for each other. Guys are like, Joe wrecked his car.
They did say the research cited in the journal article says 54% of women say they are very likely to seek emotional support from their friends compared with 38% of men. But they say ultimately, Randy's not here, but we'll still talk a little bit about health. They said strong friendships reduce stress and improve overall well-being.
Sure.
And so it's really important that as you go on, you maintain the friendships. I loved this, though. In the survey, 1/3 of women over 50 say female friendships bring them more happiness than romantic relationships. I don't know that it's more happiness or maybe less stress, right?
Different kind of happiness, maybe.
Drake is disagreeing.
No, not even. Well, I have anecdotal evidence because I haven't met a woman who hasn't either trash talked her friends behind their back, or had friends that trash talked them behind her back.
Rude.
It's just one of those things, we don't need to, talk about everything like that. We just enjoy the moment, being around each other. We can spend hours talking about, football takes and nothing serious, and even just sit in silence. So we don't need to talk about, oh, well, here's every detail of my life. Oh, I like these nails. Oh, I get my hair done at this place. Oh, yada, yada, yada. No, it's ridiculous. We talk about what
you talk
we
about
love.
where to go get your tires fixed, or I mean,
No,
you
we don't
still
even do that.
You still provide recommendations to
No,
each
we
other.
don't.
You don't?
Not usually. I mean, if we do, it's like, hey, where should I get my tires fixed? Oh, this place. Okay, cool. We don't spend hours talking about it. Well, I actually like this place to get my tires. Oh, well, this place, their tires do it this way. And no, we can sit there, not talk about anything important, and have the best times of our lives.
So are you saying that men excel in nonverbal communication? Is that what's going on here? Okay.
But do you feel like those relationships are like meaningful? Like if you did have a problem or you were stressed, you could reach out to a friend when you were in need?
Yeah, I mean, I take a bullet for all my friends. I don't know anything about like their actual like real life half the time. Like
at all?
No,
I
have an actual story about this. I found out that one of my buddies had a job at one of the power plants or like at some nuclear facility for the entire last semester, and I found out like a week ago. So, I mean,
I do think that's really interesting in that like a lot of times you have friends and you don't actually know what they do all day, every day. And I've seen like gatherings and they're like, everyone has to give like a 5-minute PowerPoint about what their job actually is. Even my sister, I know where she works and I know kind of what she does, but like her daily list of activities, I would have a hard time articulating exactly what she does day to day.
Well, and I think if you work in politics at all, you need that meme like what everybody else thinks I do, what I think I do, what I really do.
Stop at Buc-ee's and load up before I go on long walks around neighborhoods.
Knock on 1,000,000 doors.
That's pretty good. Well, I think as we're looking at, I mean, we've talked a little bit about isolation and about, cultural shifts, remote working, that kind of thing. And I think more men could take a page out of women's books and have more meaningful conversations to make sure that
that's what cigar lounges are for, right? Those are making a comeback too, right?
I think they are,
yeah,
right?
They definitely
have
are.
to have
I love cigar lounges.
Special
They're awesome.
exceptions. Now, Drake, have you been following the World Cup news?
A little bit. Are you talking about the U.S. men's coach being a traitor and you didn't hear about this?
I did not.
Oh, so our head coach, which I don't necessarily agree with, he's from Argentina. I don't think that's the play. We're America. We should have it in America. But anyways, so this guy, he has been doing interviews for other jobs in like EPL leagues or something like that. 2 weeks before the World Cup starts. And I was just in Kansas City this weekend, and people are excited. I saw people wearing the jerseys all around town. It was cool.
It's going to be a big deal for our state. And I saw the news out of Kansas City yesterday that the Argentina national team landed at KCI yesterday. Apparently, Lionel Messi's 10 was on the plane's tail, and he has officially landed in Kansas City. Now, he is like he's the best, right? So, superstar. No?
There's Messi and then there's Ronaldo. I mean, there's a big debate in the soccer community.
Well, I told you about that time. Where was I? I was somewhere. And they were having a game. I was out of town, and they were having a game, and I didn't know that they were in town. And I was getting on a white charter bus with a bunch of boring lawyers, and the masses that so the Messi team was staying at our hotel, and there was this huge crowd outside with their phones ready, and they thought, I guess, the team was getting on this charter bus, and so as soon as we come out, they're like flashing all these things, and I'm like, whoa, like you've got, like, we're not who you really want to see, but for a moment, it kind of felt kind of fun, like this must be
paparazzi.
Yeah, this must be what it's like. But I think what a fantastic event for Kansas City, and I think we were talking this morning about showcasing all of the good things going on in our state, and I think this is a real opportunity. What?
I was just saying that, like, I had a life-altering experience this weekend.
In Kansas City?
I've been a hater of Kansas City. Everyone knows so much. I think I might have gotten my mind changed this weekend.
Oh.
That was insane. I went to the Yard. You told me about that. Amazing. The milkshake place.
Oh, the milkshake place. Yes. Okay. Yes.
And I do have to say, terrible sports town. I walked around Kansas City wearing a Cardinals hat, and like I got 2 comments about it. I was expecting
rightfully so. I mean, if you,
What?
yes.
No, I'm saying I expect to be beaten up or like heckled.
Oh, they didn't heckle you enough.
No, there was one, like, the bartender at the end of our conversation said, "What are you doing wearing that hat around here, though?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just a St. Louis
So your
guy."
complaint is that people in Kansas City are too nice?
Yes. No, they're not a good sports town if they're not, like, heckling you, doing all that stuff. Like,
Did you cross the line into Kansas? I sure hope not.
No, I did not. No.
Just wait till Messi and Ronaldo hit the streets there, and you'll see. With all the outside influence, it's going to be one heck of a sports town when World Cup kicks off.
Well, and speaking of our baseball teams, the Cardinals had a pretty good weekend, huh, John? Right? Well, yesterday they won 5-1.
5-1 yesterday
against the Cubs. So
Did you see the clip of the game we lost?
I did not.
So there's a player, what's his name? AJC or something like that. Anyways, he's on the Cubs. Everyone hates him. It's like a big thing. Everyone thinks he's corny. And the tarps off section was chanting overrated, and he hit a home run straight to them. The guy who got the ball, whenever he went to throw, he threw so bad, he nailed the guy in the first row who was a Cubs fan. He just looked terrible throwing. Not a good look for St. Louis. Just terrible.
All right. Well, we will continue to watch the World Cup happenings as it is already started with the Argentina team landing at KCI. It's going to be a big opportunity for Missouri to showcase itself on the world stage. And
Ole.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, up next, we're going to do leftovers here on Wake Up Missouri. Continue to text us, 573-874-9390. What are you seeing out on the street? Do you have any damage? Do you have any damage from those storms overnight? And keep those income tax questions coming.
It's Wake
Big election in LA tomorrow with Spencer Pratt. He has been gaining in the polls, and they head to election day tomorrow.
But will he go viral with voters?
I know. So I'm interested in your opinion, Camelia, because of course we've seen people be very popular on social media here in Missouri and ultimately come out unsuccessful. I think social media is probably a strategy that AFP has employed and candidates have to employ to try to reach people. But does that translate to getting people to the polls? What do you think?
It definitely cannot be your sole strategy, right? I mean, because we like to say like social media or Facebook is not real life. I don't know that we can completely say that anymore, right? But it is a part of it. And so there's just, to this day, like no matter what else there is out there, there's just nothing as effective as face-to-face conversations with people. So like doors still win, the races.
And I don't know how many times I've heard a political consultant say yard signs don't vote, right? And so you hear that and it's kind of like, well, social media posts don't vote either. But if you can talk to your friends and your neighbors and they get a personal from you, a heartfelt message for why you're voting for someone or against someone or for something or against something, you've found in your experience that to be pretty successful. I mean, it worked for Eric Schmidt.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I mean, doors are by far the most effective, and, come election day, I'll have my circle of friends and family that'll ask me like,
oh, sure,
what's going on, right? Because it's hard for how much is going on. It's almost impossible to keep up with every single thing. So it's okay to have that friend who knows a lot about a particular thing or whatever and to trust their judgment, right? We all need friends like that. I have friends like that.
Exactly.
Can't do it all.
Exactly. John,
we heard that on the thing we mentioned just last week, that we're having people who are generally in the know asking us, okay, what's on the August ballot and what's on the November ballot? Now, when is the tax question and when is the redo of the abortion? And these are people who are generally very informed.
That's right. John, what's on your leftover plate?
Pulling a wheelie and blasting down city streets on your dirt bike can land you with a fine now in Jefferson City. Police department says they are cracking down on groups who stage street takeovers with unlicensed motorcycles and ones with cars. And they point out that St. Louis now confiscates dirt bikes and four-wheelers of folks who do the takeovers. So it's becoming a bit of a challenge in Jefferson City.
Drake, both wheels on the ground, no wheelies, okay?
I don't even have a car right now, Stephanie.
Walk with both feet then.
Yeah. Do you have a leftover, Drake?
I do. I have a quick one. Game 7 of the Spurs Thunder series happened this Saturday. Spurs came away 111 points to 103, which means that for the 8th year in a row, there's been a different NBA champion every single year for the past eight years. It will either be the Knicks or the Spurs. That series starts with this Wednesday, June 3rd.
All right. So the NBA, unlike some leagues, is doing something right. Is that what you're saying?
Sure. I wouldn't say that. They have some political takes and all that, and tanking is pretty bad, but
All right. Well, we have been talking a lot about those August ballot measures, and I know, Camelia, you guys have some events coming up with AFP. Can you let us know where people can go to get informed?
So in this area in particular, Friday evening, Shakespeare's Pizza South in Columbia, we're going to do one of those town halls. Bring your questions. It's a great time to have that conversation. The very next morning in Jefferson City at the library, we're going to do the same thing. And Representative Bishop Davidson, Dennis Ganal with Mo Tax Relief Now will also be there, and others. Aaron Hedlund will be at the Columbia one, along with Representative John Martin. You can see all of the details, afpmissouri.com under events, and we'd love to have you come out.
Nice. Well, that is a good way to get informed. I know we tried to give you some information here, but I'm sure you have some specific questions, and we've got some more information from Camelia about how you can find out some more information if you are so inclined. Now, tomorrow, Randy will be back. The folks in LA are headed to the polls, and we will find out, will we see those viral-like videos for Missouri candidates in the future? I think people are watching really closely on how future campaigns are going to be shaking out.
Right, for sure. Good luck to Spencer Pratt.
Good luck to Spencer Pratt. That's right. And
He
I
may
think
need it.
My advice always in the past was Missouri candidates have tried to do the songs, they've tried to do the videos. Almost always they
work out
they
very
go
well.
really badly. But maybe Spencer Pratt is going to turn the tide, and we'll see some pretty cool videos coming up. All right, that's all for today. Thanks for being with us. Bye.